Jana Vallabha Jana Vallabha Saparivačakachaya Ashtutara Shata Shishamatis Divine Grace Shila Abhayachananda Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramamsa Parivachakachaya Ashtutara Shata Shishamatis Divine Grace Shila Bhakti Vedanta Sarasvati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulasi Madhani Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Alle Ehre sei den versammelten Gottgeweihten, alle Ehre sei den versammelten Gottgeweihten, alle Ehre sei den versammelten Gottgeweihten, alle Ehre sei Shishi Guru Goranga, alle Ehre sei Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Tägliche Mate Bhakti Bhushana Swami Prabhupada Shistu Maya Savatra Mura Kripadaya Satyarishi Yasha Krishna Maga Shiva Ravena Namaste. Auf Englisch?
Ja, aber es sind 3 Personen, die besser Englisch
Und sonst verstehen alle Englisch? Außer dir?
Ich will es nicht. Englisch.
Wer versteht kein Englisch? So, alles klar. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Prajarine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatya Dashatarine Shri Vrindavan 13th of September 1976. Pradyumna Prabhu had a lengthy meeting with Srila Prabhupada this afternoon to finalize his reply to the Blitz article on Sai Baba. Do you know who Sai Baba is? There are actually 2 Sai Babas. In Indian history. So, Prabhupada read from the opening paragraph of the article. Pradyumna read from the opening paragraph of the article, which was entitled, God is an Indian. God is ein Inder. His contemporary avatar rests in the trinity of Sati Baba, Sai Baba, and Prem Baba to come. So Satya Sai Baba, the second of the tribal incarnation, asserted in the course of a marathon interview to add, "In my present avatar, I have come armed with the fullness of the power of the formless God to save humanity." So this is the article. Of Sai Baba, who appeared in a magazine, I think, or newspaper, called Blitz. Sounds German, Blitz. But I don't know, it was in India or wherever, probably in India. So in this article, written by Sai Baba, he's quite famous, he says there are 3 avatars, Trinity, 3. Trinity is a very important, popular, let's say, concept in religions. Christianity also has Trinity, and so there's Trinity, 3 avatars that appear, avatars of Vishnu. Sati Baba, Sai Baba, and Prem Baba. Prem Baba hasn't come yet. Sati Baba was in the past, and now is Sai Baba. Is Indian guy. That's why the article is titled, probably, God is an Indian guy with a afro look, I don't know how to say, hair stand on end. And he says, I'm avatar of God. And in the article he also says, in my present avatar I have come armed with the fullness of power, so he has all power, of the formless God. So God is actually formless, but I have appeared with the full power of the formless God. Why? To save humanity. So it seems that Pradyumna, you have heard of Pradyumna? Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple? He was doing translations for Prabhupada, especially Sanskrit. And he was also supposed to translate the remaining part of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Prabhupada was not able to translate because he passed away. So Pradyumna was in charge of that. But in the end, it came differently. So he played an important role and Prabhupada counted a lot on him. Srila Prabhupada dictated the outline of the letter to Pradyumna. What does that mean? Pradyumna was supposed to write an answer to that article, but Prabhupada already dictated the outline, the main points, what Pradyumna should write. So, this is what Prabhupada writes in the outline. Dear Sai Baba, just recently in the Blitz paper published on, gives a date, we were surprised to find one article, God is an Indian, and you have claimed to become an incarnation of God to save human society. What is the ground of your claiming as incarnation? And what have you done to save human society? Will you explain for enlightenment of us, or many of us? We have got the list of incarnations recorded in the Vedic scriptures, and their respective activities also. So where is that record in the Vedic scripture about your appearing as an incarnation? Lord Krishna's incarnationness is fully described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Similarly, Lord Ramachandra's incarnationness or Lord Buddha's incarnationness. Lord Chaitanya's incarnationness is a word I've never heard. Incarnationness means the proof, or that the proof that he is actually an incarnation. We have got full information in Vedic literatures. Where is your incarnation described? Where is Sai Baba in Bhagavatam as incarnation? Where is the proof? Oh, because the Acharyas, the wise, Shukadev Goswami, gave a list, and Sutta Goswami, they all gave a list of incarnations, so that no one can come later and say, I'm also an incarnation. Look, I'm incarnation, don't you see? Können ihr nicht sehen, dass ich eine Inkarnation bin, oder was? So, incarnations are recorded in the scriptures. That is important. So, Prabhupada is asking, where is your incarnation described? Will you kindly give the reference? Anyone can say like you, anyone can say like you that one is incarnation, as it has become a fashion nowadays. But is that claim the only proof of one's becoming incarnation? Some such unauthorized claim of becoming an incarnation is certainly ridiculous. then you have claimed to take form. What he has written. Now Prabhupada is asking Pradyumna to continue the letter, because Prabhupada here spontaneously gives the outline. He tells Pradyumna more or less what to write, and he is asking Pradyumna what is in the article. Pradyumna reread Baba's claim to being an avatar armed with the fullness of the power of the formless God. So Prabhupada continued. So you have claimed to take a form of the formless God. But we see in the Bhagavad Gita that God is never formless. He had Pradyumna read out verse 724 from the Gita and its purport. Do you know that verse? 7th chapter, 24th verse. Shall we read it?
Yes.
Huh? Can you give me Gita, English Gita? English, yeah. That verse says something interesting. Actually, I'm also reading other versions of Gita, also from Mayavadis, to see what they write. Because in this verse, Krishna says clearly that people who think that he has been formless before, and now he has taken this form as Krishna, before he has been formless, they are stupid. He says it in that verse. So sometimes I'm looking at other Gitas, how they translate this verse, because they will say themselves, the verse says, you, Mayavadi, who is translating this, you are stupid. But they turn around somehow. But anyway, in Bhagavad Gita, as it is translated like this. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and now have assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So Krishna says in the Gita, according to this verse, that people who think that God is formless and sometimes takes a form as an incarnation, they are mentally not well. Or they have no intelligence, let's say. So this is a statement of the Gita. So that's why Prabhupada told Pradyumna here to read the verse from the Gita and also Prabhupada's purport to it. I'm not going to read the purport now, or maybe I will do it. Let's see how this continues. Telling Pradyumna to quote the verse in the letter, along with a quote from Yamuna Acharya, found in the purport, we will have a look at that, Prabhupada went on with his dictation. Only the rascals and less intelligent class of men think that God is formless, and when he incarnates, he takes a particular form. So in this connection, the statement of Bhagavatam is especially important. Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shaptyate. Brahman is impersonal. Paramatma is localized, and Bhagavan is a supreme personality of Godhead. Voicing aloud Prabhupada's statement as he wrote it down, Pradyumna repeated, Brahman is impersonal. Prabhupada immediately corrected him. Pradyumna repeated, Brahman is the impersonal. Prabhupada immediately corrected him. Brahman is impersonal, not the. Makes a difference sometimes, small words. Paramatma is localized, and Bhagavatam is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Citing many verses from Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada made the point that Krishna's personality cannot be understood without his mercy. So one has to accept the statement of Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, how he is originally the Purusha, or person. He said, impersonal Brahman is the expansion of the rays of his personal body, exactly like the sunshine is expansion of the rays of the sun god Vivasvan. Vivasvan is a person in the sun globe, and Krishna is also a person who spoke the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita long years before he spoke the same to Arjuna. Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Ahavyayam. Therefore, the conclusion is that originally God is always a person. Impersonal Brahman is emanation from the personal God. In other words, God, personal God, is not from impersonal Brahman, but impersonal Brahman is from the personal God. That is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Impersonal Brahman is resting on personal God. Exactly that illumination of light is resting on the electric bulb. Not that the bulb is resting on illuminated light. No? You have a bulb and the light comes from the bulb. It's not that the light is there and then the bulb appears because of that. No? First, the person is there with form, with personality and everything. And then that person has an effulgence, like every person has an personal effulgence. So, especially the sun god in this respect is mentioned. It's because the sun god is there, sunshine is there. Because God is there, illumination is there. Everything comes from God. No? This is stated in Vedanta Sutra or Vedic scriptures in general. Everything expands from God, the origin of everything. Again, quoting from the Gita, Prabhupada came to a very pointed conclusion. So, what is a conclusion? So, Krishna as a person says to Arjuna that both of them existed in the past as person, and they continue to remain person in the future. So, without knowing all this knowledge, a Muda accepts the incarnation of God as coming from imperson. Avajananti mamuda manushim tanum ashritam. Under this heading, you have proved yourself to become a Muda. Do you know what Muda means? Yes, you know. Huh? Fool, yeah. Literally means easel, ass, donkey, ER. But Prabhupada always translates it rascal, because rascal is the characteristics of an ER. Donkey is, he is two things. He is, because rascal means two things. He is a bit stupid, or quite stupid, but he is also, a rascal means like shorker. He has a bad attitude. It's not only stupid. Actually, everyone who is stupid, something is wrong, or with his or her mentality also, attitude. Because the soul actually is not stupid. The soul is wise. Soul has all knowledge. But we have become stupid in this world. And some people are still more stupid. And the emblem of stupidity is the ass, the donkey. So that's why Krishna says Muda. Sometimes Prabhupada is criticized how to say. He's using so strong words. You say, this is rascal, he is rascal, and everyone is rascal. Why are you saying this? No? You are sadhu, you should be gentle. Prabhupada said, no, I'm not saying this. Krishna is saying. Krishna is using the word Muda quite a lot in the verses. And how a Muda or an ass can become the incarnation of God. That is the conclusion. No? That is the answer to the article by Sai Baba. How a Muda like you can become an incarnation of God. Please explain. Yeah? Any questions or comments?
Yeah.
Yeah?
But Muda is also the part.
Bitte?
Muda or us,
Yeah.
is the part of God. Yes.
Is the
Particle.
particle of God? Yeah, it's a particle. That's your comment. Okay. Actually continues many pages more. We are not going to read all of it. Continues more than 2 pages more, but I will stop here. You can continue tomorrow reading that. So what are you saying about this claim of Sai Baba and Prabhupada's answer to it? Well, one thing is very important. You want to say something?
It's just, after hearing, I just wonder how they come to these conclusions. Like, as you said, like you have read other versions. It's just, I wonder how they like come to conclude that this is possible. Like, where do they take these things out? Like, it's just, yeah. I just.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. But we have to know that this is very, very, very common. And this attitude is in all of us. So she is asking to make the question clear. Because I have said that this verse from Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada is quoting, where Krishna says, those who are less intelligent think that I have been impersonal before and now have appeared in this personal form. So that's what Krishna says. But you can read in other Bhagavad Gita versions which are not written by or commented or translated by Vaishnavas, that they turn it around. It doesn't sound like this. And that is a problem with Bhagavad Gita. You read Bhagavad Gita, you think, I was speaking about this recently on my YouTube channel. I'm doing spiritual talks. And I was presenting the Bhagavad Gita a little bit. And then I was saying, told them 3 versions of the Gita that I recommend. And you might ask yourself, why do you need a recommendation which version of the Gita to read? The Gita is a Gita, it's an old scripture, it's always the same. No? The Sanskrit is exactly the same. 700 verses, the Sanskrit is always the same. And you can open any Bhagavad Gita, the Sanskrit is the same. But then you read it, who understands Sanskrit? No one. Maybe it's, okay, some scholars understand Sanskrit. They have studied Sanskrit. Or maybe Indians, I don't know, because Hindi and Bengali is a little bit similar to Sanskrit. Maybe they understand Sanskrit, or at least part of it. But it's not so easy. First of all, Sanskrit is such a difficult language. Do you know? The original language is completely different than any other language in the world. It's really complicated. it starts with the alphabet. The alphabet is not like we see in Europe, ABC, A, B, C, D, or in any language, more or less the same, but a little different. So, but why is A first, and then B, and then C, and then D? Is there any systematic there? Is there any system? A, B? Why not start with Z and then D and then T? It is whimsical, launish. Sanskrit is not like this. The alphabet is systematic. First the vowels, and then the consonants. And the consonants start there where you pronounce it in the mouth, in the back. No, the first, anyway, it's very systematic. Everything systematic. The grammar completely systematic. But it's so systematic that you need to have a big brain to understand. So no one speaks this language. Like in Europe, we also have Latin language. It's grammatically very complicated. Do you know Latin, anyone? Maybe you have learned at school, yeah, gymnasium. You have learned Latin. It's very complicated grammatically. No one wants to speak that. Now, even in Italy, they speak Italian, not Latin, because... And other Roman languages which come from Latin, like French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, English, 50%, Romanian language. It's a simplified version of Latin, because Latin is too complicated for people to speak. In the few hundred years ago, in all universities of Europe, the language was Latin. If you wanted to study, everything was in Latin. All the books were in Latin and the language was Latin. That had the advantage that even you were born in Germany, you could study in Italy, because at university it was Latin. If you knew, you had to know Latin. So scholars were exchanged around Europe. They could go anywhere and they could communicate with each other. But people in general don't want to speak such a complicated language, at least not nowadays. Advanced Kali Yuga. The language is degraded every year. More simple language. So Sanskrit is difficult. And Sanskrit also has one speciality that makes it even more important, is that the spiritual vocabulary is very detailed. So translation, when you take a Bhagavad Gita, it probably has a translation. Either Hindi translation, Bengali translation, although these are near to Sanskrit, or any other translation, European translation, English, German, or Russian, or whatever. You have it in. So that means in the translation is already an interpretation. Because Sanskrit has such a detailed vocabulary, there is an interpretation of the person who has translated it. And as soon as you can make an interpretation, how do you make that interpretation?
Using what you have learned or what you have heard.
Yeah, what you have learned, what you have understood, probably also what you like. No? Isn't it? There is this, there's a kind of game where a person gives a message, speaks a message into the ear of someone else. So only that person can hear it, not the group. And then the message continues, person by person, and the last person has to say what he or she understood. And it's usually completely different from the very beginning, because you don't understand 100%. And then you give to the next person what you think you have understood, and maybe a little bit of change into it because you think, I can express it better. No, isn't it? You have heard a message. Let's say you have seen the television news, and then you tell it to your mother next day. She's asking you, my dear boy, my dear girl, what did they say in the news about this and that? So you explain it in your own way. Will it be the same thing as the speaker said? Or it will be some kind what you remember and what you think it is, and maybe what you want it to be. So people who translate the Bhagavad Gita, and actually I think it's very rare to get a Bhagavad Gita that only has translation. Usually there's a commentary also. So it expands. So people, before reading the Bhagavad Gita, they already have an understanding of the world. They already have a philosophy. So they read the Bhagavad Gita according to their understanding, according to their philosophy. So an impersonalist will read the Bhagavad Gita with his own understanding. And of course, it cannot be that Krishna says that impersonalists are not right, they are stupid. So they think, no, the Sanskrit, it has to mean something else. Because of the grammar, it has to be the other way around, or something. So this verse I have seen because I thought, well, how can a Mayavadi Bhagavad Gita exist with this verse? It's so clear. And you read it and it says something else in their Gita. I cannot say, because I'm not a Sanskrit expert, if that is a valid, a proper, another explanation of the Gita that is actually valid in a sense. I cannot say. Because we know that Vedic texts, even by actually only someone who is perfect in Sanskrit, understands the philosophy and also practices spiritual life, should translate a Vedic text like the Gita. If you are only a scholar and you are not a practitioner of anything, you cannot understand the Gita. In the very beginning of the Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, I tell the secret to you because I know you can understand it. Why? Because you are my devotee and my friend. It's a qualification to understand Bhagavad Gita from the very beginning. It means someone who is not a devotee and not a friend of Krishna, who doesn't have a personal relation to Krishna, will not understand the Gita, although Krishna is explaining everything. So any commentary, any commentator on the Gita who doesn't have this qualification, that is practicing bhakti, he is a devotee of the Lord, he has a personal relationship of the God, he cannot understand the Gita, so how can he translate or explain? But there are thousands, 10,000s of commentaries of the Gita in all languages by people who are not a devotee of Krishna. So what is the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita translation? It's a secret. So how is the Bhagavad Gita a secret? How are Vedic scriptures a secret? It's written there, everyone can read. With a little bit of brain, it's not a secret. Krishna is explaining everything. No, but it's still a secret because you don't understand. You can read it and you don't understand. That is a very important aspect of all Vedic scriptures, especially the spiritual scriptures, especially Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, when it goes. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there are some chapters Chapter names are not given by Krishna. They were later given by acharyas. But in the middle it says confidential knowledge. And the most confidential knowledge. And what is that? Is bhakti. Confidential means is kind of a secret. Only a few people can understand it. Is very confidential. No? So, but Krishna tells his personal secrets to his devotees. But he tells it in a way that someone who is not a devotee, he will not understand. He gives another explanation. That's what's happening to any impersonal interpretation of the Gita. Or a scholar comes from Europe. No? I have read Bhagavad Gitas. I cannot read them completely because it's not nice to read, but I read a little bit sometimes. So there are scholars who study the Gita. They have studied Sanskrit at university. They have studied Indian tradition. And their conclusion is that the Gita is not written by one author. It's impossible. Because parts of the Gita, they have a different mood. And there's a different philosophy. There are contradictions. So impossible. So they say something has been written in the 8th century and something is from the 12th century, and someone put it together and says this is a Gita. It's not by one person. What to speak of Krishna, he never existed, is a figure invented. This is what comes out if a scholar, by his own understanding, coming from Europe or the West, studies Indian culture and opens the Gita and tries to understand what it is. It doesn't make sense. There's too many contradictions. And even people coming from the tradition, coming from Indian tradition, but with an impersonal understanding, they will understand the Gita in an impersonal way. Because the verses, especially in the middle of the Gita, where Krishna says, no, I'm a person. I'm a person. I'm this person you see in front of you. But I'm not a person like you. I'm a supreme Lord. Everything comes from me. I am everything. I am in everything. Everything comes from me. It's inconceivable. And at the same time, I'm here. I have this form. I have a personality. So, who can understand this? You have to be a devotee. Otherwise, you will say, no, it has another meaning. There are also verses in the Gita where, usually the traditional scholars of India who follow a tradition, they translate the verses properly. Not this one verse, because they cannot do that otherwise. They cannot maintain their philosophy. But most of the verses are translated properly. Like there is this verse, famous verse, Manmana Bhavamat Bhakto, where Krishna says, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me. And they translate it like this, impersonalists. Krishna says, become my devotee, worship me. But then the commentary comes. And in the commentary they say, actually it's not Krishna that we should worship, but the unmanifest, the impersonal in Krishna that you should worship. So either it's turned around in the purport, because it can be turned around, or already the Sanskrit is somehow changed. And even you can see of scholars of the same tradition, there are different interpretations of the same verse sometimes. No, we can see Vaishnava acharyas Vishwanatha Chakravarti says this about the verse. However, another scholar, Baladev Vidyabhushana or Jiva Goswami, has given another aspect. So interpretation is always there in Sanskrit literature, in Vedic literature. And that is good, is valid. But the different interpretations of the Vaishnavas don't contradict each other. And especially they don't contradict what the original verse says, what Krishna says in the Gita. It gives another angle, another understanding of it. And all the commentaries together are enriching. They give a deeper understanding. But if it's a commentary from another school that is not the highest school, who have the deepest, the most confidential understanding, then the interpretation might be wrong, especially if it's about God as a person. They cannot understand that God is a person, so they will give another interpretation. Now you can see that the impersonal scholars, impersonal school, they very much follow Shankaracharya, you might know. Because Shankaracharya was especially empowered to do this, to kind of screw up the words and give a powerful impersonal interpretation. He was empowered to do it because he is actually a manifestation of Shiva. So special power was given to him. But he never touched Bhagavatam. He did Bhagavad Gita in his own way, but he never touched Bhagavatam. Because this book that we are going to read now, Vaishnava literature, is all about Bhakti. It's about Krishna, the devotees, the incarnations. It's more difficult. So Shankaracharya thought, no, I will translate Vedanta Sutra, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita. It's already difficult, but I will do it. But that's it. So that was a long explanation. Are you okay with the explanation? Yeah, that's the problem. There's a verse in the Gita, but I'm a Mayavadi. And Krishna says, Avajananti Mamuda. I have to, it cannot be, I'm not Muda. So it means something else. And with the Sanskrit, I can play a little bit and give it the possibility. It doesn't mean actually that Krishna is a person. It means something else. No, there are interpretations that the deeper meaning of the Gita is the battlefield, that the 5 Pandavas are the 5 senses. Die 5 Sinne sind die Pandavas. And Krishna, the center of the senses, he's a mind. Yeah, and all kinds of this nice explanations, wonderful, but it's not correct, sorry. That's why this Bhagavad Gita is called Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's a complete Bhagavad Gita. And it's as it is because it's Krishna's complete explanations, especially the most confidential explanation, which is difficult to understand. You need the help of a Vaishnava Acharya to get into it. Now, all of us, we needed the help of a Vaishnava Acharya like Prabhupada to understand Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, it's not possible. It's not possible to understand Krishna's words. They need explanation. And also, to go deeper into it, you may remember when you read Bhagavad Gita for the first time. But now your understanding, compared to your first understanding of the Gita, I think it might be different. Because now you are a practitioner. You have become a devotee. To a certain degree, you're already devotee. You're a little bit Muda still, because we come from Muda families, Krishna says even in the Gita, everyone is born in passion and ignorance. So we are born stupid. But by spiritual practice, we can become enlightened, we can become really intelligent, we can become qualified to understand Krishna and ourselves. Ourselves as minute part of Krishna. But only by the grace of Vaishnava Acharyas, and then our personal endeavor, our practice. Then we can become a devotee. And to the degree we have become a devotee, we can understand Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gita. So every year we read the Gita again, or after some years, we have more understanding of it. Becomes more natural what Krishna says. So we should speak a lot more about that, but I will leave for tomorrow. Who is going to give the class tomorrow? Yeah, so he can continue on this topic. It's so common. In the West not so much, but in India it's very common that people says, I'm an incarnation. We still have people who say that, and they are famous. There is one in Germany. I mean, it's a worldwide movement. I'm not going to say the name, but the main center is in Germany. And he says, I'm an incarnation of Vishnu. And people love him because he's so nice. He is smiling all the time. He has a very nice smile. And he is charismatic. So it's a proof. It's sufficient proof. He's charismatic and he knows something from the scriptures. And yeah, so incarnation, okay. So incarnations are listed here in the Bhagavatam, in the scriptures. That's one of the main topics of the Bhagavatam actually. Incarnations of Krishna. So, going to read 6th canto, 14th chapter. 14th chapter is King Chitraketu's lamentation. I'm going to read verse 17, is that correct? 18? So next one. 18. Someone is writing in this book, have you seen? We don't do that. Usually we don't take notes in this. I mean, it's only... So text 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Atmanam Prakritishu Ada Nidaya Shreya Apnuyat Rajna Tata Prakritayo Naradeva Hitadaya Atmanam Prakritishvara Nidaya Shreya Upnayat Ragna Tata Prakritayo Naradeva Hitadaya Atmanam Prakritishvara Nidaya Shreya Upnaya Ragnya Tata Prakritayo Naradeva Hitaraya. Ja?
Atmanam prakriti sadha nidhaya shreya apnuyat yagyat tatha prakritayo naradeva hitadhaya
Atmanam prakriti sada nidaya shriya apnaya ragna tata prakritayo naradeva hidat
Atmanam prakriti shraddha nidhaya shreya apunayat ragya tatha prakritayo naradeva hitaya dha.
Ladies. Atmanam, himself, Prakritishu, under these 7 royal elements. Ada, directly, Nidaya, placing, Shreya, ultimate happiness, Apnuyat, may obtain, Ragya, by the king, Tata, so also, Prakritaya, the dependent royal elements, Naradeva, O king, Ahita Adaya, offering wealth and other items. Sorry, I have to take a candy so my voice, so I can maintain my voice. O king, O lord of humanity, when a king directly depends on his associates and follows their instructions, he is happy. Similarly, when his associates offer their gifts and activities to the king and follow his orders, they are also happy. Purport. The actual happiness of a king and his dependents is described in this verse. A king should not simply give orders to his dependents because he is supreme. Sometimes he must follow their instructions. Similarly, the dependent should depend on the king. This mutual dependence will make everyone happy. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksho Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I read the verse again because it maybe came a little bit too quickly. It's important to understand what Angira Muni says here. O King, O Lord of humanity, he speaks to King Chitraketu. When a king directly depends on his associates and follows their instructions, he is happy. Similarly, when his associates offer their gifts and activities to the king and follow his orders, they are also happy. So this is a conversation between a sage called Angira Muni, who appeared in the house of King Chitraketu. And this was actually a great benediction for the king. A great, great, great benediction, which we will see as the story unfolds. I will come back to that later. But first of all, why does he say this? Why does Angira say this? In the beginning, when Angira is talking to the king, he kind of praises the king and says, everything is very nice here, so you must be happy. Everything is going on very nice here. But I can see that you are not happy, you are in great anxiety. And actually that was the reason why the king appeared. Not the king, the sage appeared, Angira appeared. Great personalities, acharyas, sages like Angira Muni, they don't waste their time. Everyone's time is very limited. You know, in your own life, your time is limited. How much can you do in a day? Already the body requires a lot of attention. You have to spend so much time to take care of your body. Then you have to take time also to take care of people around you, your family, your associates, your friends. You have your job. You have to take care of your mind. And so how much time is left? Time is very precious to do really important activities. For that is so important for us to always have in mind, very clear, very fresh, why am I here? Why am I here in this world? What I really have to do? Apart from brushing my teeth and speaking with the neighbors, and everything is there, everything is important also. But what is really my function in this world? What is my contribution? Now as a devotee, as we have come to Krishna consciousness, we want to serve Krishna. It's very important for us to understand what we are supposed to do really as the most important thing. What is our mission in life? So Angira Muni was very much conscious of that as a devotee of the Lord, as a pure devotee of the Lord. He was very much conscious of that. He didn't waste his time. There are millions of living entities. Billions? Trillions? There are even billions of humans, no? 8 billions, I think we have now. Most of humans, what to speak of lower life forms, they are completely absorbed in material life. Very difficult to wake them up. They're really absorbed. So why did Angira Muni take his time. He was wandering around the universe, and somehow he noticed Chitraketu. Why did he appear there? Okay, Chitraketu was a king, important person. Chitraketu also was lamenting. He was in anxiety. Now many people are lamenting all the time, or most of the time, especially Kali Yuga. We are lamenting all of the time. We are in anxiety, in distress all of the time. Or it's not an uncommon thing that the king, okay, he was an important person, the king, but that was not the reason. There are other kings, other important people. No, Angira Muni could understand that Chitraketu is qualified to understand the spiritual essence. Actually, the king was absorbed in material life completely. His happiness and also his distress, all from material life. His distress was he couldn't have a son. It's very important to have a son. According to Vedic culture, it's very important. Now we have forgotten Vedic culture. We don't care anymore. Abtreibung. No. Do you know how many people I'm saying, how many children have to suffer abortion every year? Do you know? I only know the number in the US. 1 million. Imagine 10 years, 10 million. Imagine 30 years, it's not much. 30 million. 30 million children face abortion in America. If you are, as a soul, you don't want to appear in America as a soul, it's very likely you will be killed already. You never come out. You don't see the light. 30 million means almost 10% of the American population is killed in the womb as a small embryo by the will of the mother. That is Kali Yuga. We can understand that this is Kali Yuga. So why did I say that? I have said this already many times because it really touches my heart what our situation is nowadays. Yeah, because the king wanted to have a son and he didn't have a son. So at that time, abortion was not. People couldn't imagine that. A mother can never kill her child. Because we understand that in the material sphere, the purest kind of love is between mother and child. So if that is corrupted, if that is broken, we can understand the state of the world nowadays. Because originally, mother gives her own life for the children. It's natural. It's a natural instinct. So Chitraketu couldn't have a son. Why is a son important? Because if you understand how this universe works, which is described in the Vedic scriptures, you need a son. Because a son will save you from hellish life. After you die, Krishna explains what happens at the point of death. You go to your next destination according to the mentality you have at the point of death. So if you are not very pure, you are going to a place that's not very nice. Many people go to hell. This has been previously described by Shukadev Goswami in the end of the 5th canto. It's not too far away from this story. So many people go to hell, but hell in Vedic scriptures is not like hell in Christianity. It's not an eternal condition. It's just a period of time to purify from your sins as a human. A human goes to hell for his or her sins that he has committed during his human life. So, more sins, more suffering. So, but you can be saved by a son who offers certain sacrifices, rituals to the forefathers. The penalty can be reduced. Now, Vedic scriptures is all about reduction of penalties. How to avoid suffering, although I have done some nonsense, because I'm a rascal, I'm Buddha, I will commit nonsense. Even if I have become a devotee, you might know, in your life, at least I can see in my life, I still do nonsense. Out of ignorance, out of passion, out of bad intentions that I still have in my heart, I commit nonsense. So I will suffer. Because this world means law of karma. There is justice. Everything you do, you get back as a reaction. It has to be like that. But in the Vedic scriptures, there are some formulas given how you can avoid or minimize punishment. So everyone has to know that. At that time, everyone was aware of that, and the king was aware of that. So he has no son. First of all, his throne cannot be given to a follower. That is already too much. But he's especially lamenting about his future because he knows he has committed sins, that he will go to hell. He doesn't want to do that. That is his anxiety. So Angira Muni knew about that. But that was not sufficient. He also knew, if I go to this person, he will go to a drama. You will see, he will go to a drama because Angira will give him the benediction to have a son. No? The king is praying when usually people who are pious, when a sage comes, they pray for some material benefit. Please cure this disease. My knee is hurts or my wife is doing this to me. Please help me. I have tried everything. I cannot help myself. Give me benediction. Sadhu, sadhu. I washed your feet, but give me some material benediction. So Chittaketu's external behavior and mentality was like that. But internally he was spiritually advanced to a certain degree. He was sufficiently advanced that he needed some experience, a particular experience, certain kind of experience, and then he will become detached from material life. He will transform his consciousness. No? Angira Muni knew this, and he knew also that Chittaketu was in this situation he was in by the will of the Lord. All the suffering, all the situations, also our enjoyment, the mixture of material suffering, enjoyment, the specific situation we have now is by Krishna's will. And Krishna's will is not whimsical. It's not, okay, I want this person to have this. No, it's always with a purpose. It's for your very best. The situation you are in now is your best learning experience to do the next step in your spiritual evolution. This was the situation with Chittaketu. Angira knew this. And he came there to give benedictions to the king. Not exactly what he wanted, also what he wanted. He gave him benediction to have a son. But the bigger benediction was a spiritual experience he had. The son died. And then the king's lamentation was even bigger. And he was crying, Angira, what did you do to me? Why are you doing this to me? So Angira came back together with Narada Muni. and they made the sun appear again and give a lecture to Chitaketa, to the father. That was the best thing that could happen to him. So, in the end, Chitaketa could understand material life means suffering. Material life, there is another kind of life. It's all nonsense. Even if I spend all my life and all my next 1,000, 1 million lives in the pursuit of happiness, in doing something good even, everything will be destroyed. Because the nature of this world is like this. My nature as a spiritual soul is not compatible with the material world. There's a material sphere, how this world works, and there is a spiritual nature. They are not compatible. My attempt to be happy in this world cannot be successful because my nature is spiritual. My world is a spiritual world. I'm part of the spiritual world. That's the place that is natural for me. There I can be happy. Now here's a description in the verse that the king's happiness depends on that he follows the instruction of the associates. But then also it says that the associates or the citizens should follow and give also gifts to the king. So it's mutual cooperation. This is a basic principle. It's actually a spiritual principle. We become happy only, our happiness, spiritual happiness as soul is, if we make others happy, if we cooperate with others. Ultimately, if we cooperate with Krishna, but cooperating with Krishna means cooperating with everyone. Cooperating with the source of all existence, with Supreme God, means to make everyone happy. But even directly, making others happy, another soul, working for the benefit of another soul, reflects in you and makes yourself happy. If we try to make ourselves happy first, that is a material endeavor. Our ego tells us this. I become happy if I put food in my mouth. Here, laddu, or whatever I like. Eat here, I become happy by that. No, I have experience. No, I eat very nice cheese balls. Goes down so well. My hunger is satisfied. My tongue is satisfied. I'm blissful because it's such a nice taste. I've filled my belly. No, this is chemical reaction. It doesn't affect your soul. It affects your mind because the mind is material also, but it's an illusion. After 10 minutes it's gone. You have to eat the next thing and the next thing. How much can you eat? Then your belly is full, so you cannot, food doesn't work anymore. You have to do something else to satisfy your senses. You are running around. Then you start fighting with someone else about something. So it's illusionary happiness. Real happiness is to make others happy. And this secret is very well known in the spiritual world only. In the spiritual world, where the soul is pure, you do this naturally. You serve others. Especially you serve Radha and Krishna with all your heart. You don't think of yourself. You think of others only. Service to others. And that makes you... And everyone thinks like that. So, that is the spiritual world. Full bliss. Material world means is a wrong concept. But this concept also appears here. That's why in humanity we have the rules. No, we have laws. some wise men appear and tell us, no, be nice with your fellowships, with other nations, don't fight between different nations, even you have different understanding, you have border problems, you have different ideologies, religions. No, try to be friendly to each other, exchange gifts, speak to each other, find nice. But in the material world, it's always a struggle. So this verse, also as a devotee community, we can think about it a little bit. So in ISKCON, some people are in authority positions, others are no authority position. So, but both should serve each other. For our community, I'm saying, a very important instruction. It's not that someone is authority and I say what has to be done and everyone just follows. Full stop. Nice management. No, you will be very unhappy. The followers will also be unhappy because he doesn't understand this thing. I have just seen this is wrong, but he is a temple president and he comes and says this is and this. But no, Prabhu, no, I'm the temple president. So this is an instruction, I mean, just for community, temple management. And general as humans is a very important thing to understand. Happiness is created by listening to others, by communicating with others, and by serving each other. Any questions or commentaries?
I know it's really late, but I had maybe philosophical, because
Yeah?
you always said that the mind is something material, and the mind is going from one life to another life. But when we go to the spiritual abode, we have no mind. So where is my identity?
I didn't understand. Can you?
Look, the mind says, I like this, I don't like that.
The mind.
That's the mind.
Yeah?
But the mind is only there when we go from one life to another life. So when we go to the spiritual abode, to the spiritual life, we only have our soul that's going there. So the mind, because that's material, we don't have the mind.
Yes?
So what's my identity? I know my identity is the spirit soul.
Yes?
But the mind is really attached to the soul. Not on a what's my identity? Because I am a soul. I like this, I like that, but that's my mind. I like this, I like that. The mind will be separated when you go to the spiritual platform. So what am I? I know I'm a particle of Krishna. What am I? Who am I?
Yeah. You are spiritual. So, there are different explanations about that. One thing is, spirit soul doesn't mean a spiritual spark with no qualities. You are someone in the spiritual world. You have a mind in the spiritual world. You like things in the spiritual world. You dislike things. You have a character. You even have a body in the spiritual world. Your spiritual body, your spiritual mind, your spiritual intelligence, your spiritual ego is there. Spiritual ego is, I'm a servant of Krishna. It's my spiritual ego. I have spiritual intelligence. I can think. I have a spiritual mind. Material mind means, and material body, material intelligence means contamination of the spiritual mind, contamination of the spiritual intelligence. When all this contamination is washed off, the anattas that we have, the attachments that we have in the material things our material concepts, when everything is gone, the pure mind is always with you. And the pure mind does not contradict the needs and the nature of the soul. The contaminations, the material mind that we have now means contamination of our pure mind, contamination of the senses, that contradicts the needs of the soul, that covers our identity. But in the spiritual world, you have mind. The gopis have minds. Their minds are fixed on Krishna. That is a spiritual mind. Yeah, mind is spiritual originally. Everything is spiritual originally. Material world just means a perverted reflection, contamination of consciousness. Okay? Kantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki